Hello, this is Brett from SurvivalComms, and today I have another interesting item that I picked up at the Orlando Hamcation 2023, and this here is a detector, RFI RF-204U. Now, when I was walking through the swap building, I happened to spot this interesting yellow container, and it had this tag on it here, and it meets two of my stringent criteria. The first, it says RF, and then it says cool case, and I agree, this is a very cool case. It looks like something that would be on Skylab. Now, I don't have a lot of information about this particular item, and if anyone else out there watching this happens to have a technical manual or any information about this particular item, please contact me, because I'd be very interested in learning more about it. The things that I'm going to talk about today are things that I've discovered just by experimenting with this piece of equipment. Well, let's discuss what caught my eye at first, which of course is the container. The container is painted yellow. It's made of a plastic material. You can see that we have a marking here on the side, a missing label here, and on the bottom of it you can see that the marking is repeated. It has stainless steel latches that go around the case itself. It features a carrying handle. The pressure equalization screw is missing from the top of it here. We have a label here, and the only data we can see is just a few numbers here, then October 62, and then of course the testing, measurement, and diagnostic equipment label on top here. So very cool case again. Well, let's open this up and see what's inside. It's not very easy to open this up. There we go. And I've put paper in here because the paint itself started to transfer to the contents, so I kind of use this as a shield for the contents after I clean the yellow paint off. But you can see that we have an inventory list of the items that are included in this particular kit. The case has a O-ring gasket that runs the circumference of it. So here we have our items and the way they're stored inside this container. Well, now we've got all our items laid out, we'll go ahead and discuss them. This again is our charger, and it's of excellent quality. I mean, it uses an Amphenol 3-pin plug here. And then you have an adapter, of course, with that high quality MS connector, which is not particularly useful unless you have this piece of equipment. And then we have the heart of our system here, which is our detector itself. And you have this data plate here. You have some basic operational instructions here. You have a volume control potentiometer and an RF gain potentiometer. At the top, we have our probe attachment point, a place for our headset to go, or headphones. We have a detector output BNC connector, and then we have our charging port here, and we have a belt clip on the back. Then we have our probe itself, and we have the part number on the probe here. We have a tapping rod, and now we have our headset, which is of good quality. It's like a Telex headset. Well, the piece of equipment is obviously going to be inoperative, so we're going to end up having to open this up and look at the battery and check everything else out, and let's see if we can get this thing working again. Well, we can see the ravages of corrosion have definitely taken hold of this particular piece of equipment, and we'll see if we can salvage it. I'm not going to attempt to energize this device before cleaning it up. This is the factory battery that was in there, which was a 6-volt rechargeable battery, probably a NiCad, but you can see the kind of corrosion issues we had here and on the component side of the board. So let's get this all cleaned up, and then we'll clean out the inside of the housing. So I'm going to start out with some just white vinegar here in a brush, cleaning brush, and just going to go ahead and scrub down our device here, see if it takes this blue corrosion off.
And now that we've used our acid, we're just going to go ahead and neutralize the acid with some fresh water. Well, I got what I could off, and I only destroyed one capacitor in the process. And here on the side where the action is here, you can see this thing had a lot of doggone corrosion from leaving that battery in there. So let this be a lesson to everybody, and you know, don't leave batteries in pieces of equipment. Even rechargeable batteries such as this one here over time are going to corrode. And so I've replaced one capacitor with what I had on hand, and I've tied in new power leads here. I don't want to leave a battery inside of this again, and I don't want to go through the trouble of spending the money to try to find a specialty battery, and I don't want to physically modify the device itself. I want to keep it as original as possible. So what I've elected to do, since I'm not going to recharge it and use that power supply that comes with it, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the power supply leads here and just unsolder them. And I'm going to go ahead and tie these in here, and I'm going to build a power cord that plugs into the base of it and uses an external battery. So now we've made our connections, and we've got our original wires still attached, and they're tied in right here, and I've got them insulated, so if someone wanted to go in here and reconnect those, they could simply do so and cut out the modifications I have made. So, well, on my box of connectors here, I have a couple of pins that are the correct size for this device. Using my Molex crimper, I've crimped and then I've soldered these two connections, and then I'm just going to take glue lined heat shrink and insulate each one of them. So now we need to connect our battery to this end here. We got red right and negative on the left. So for a power supply for this project, we're just going to use this 6-volt Deer feeder battery I've had laying around for a couple years. And let's go ahead and energize the device. Now to turn it on and off, use a headset plug. And we have sound. And what's interesting is 10 meters must be open because I'm picking up 27 megahertz CB traffic right now. So what will we use an RFI probe for? Well, let's give you a simple example here. This is going to be broadbanded noise. Now typically the recommended first choice tool for finding this kind of interference is something like an AM broadcast radio. A little transistor radio such as this, doesn't have to be anything fancy. You tune it to an unused frequency on the AM dial and you look for your noise. And we found our source of noise, which is this rather cheap wall wart and battery charger. So we disconnect it, our interference disappears. So now that we have a basic understanding of broadband radio frequency interference and how to utilize an AM transistor radio to ascertain the approximate location of that, we can talk about the benefits of using this probe. It basically works the same way. It's got an AM detector in here and an amplifier, and it's connected to our probe. Now what we do is this gives us the ability to pinpoint the exact location of the source of interference, and I'll go ahead and demonstrate that. You can hear it's quiet, and as we get closer, you start to hear the noise, and that's coming through the headset that I've got on laying on the microphone. And as we move away from it, you can see our source of noise disappears. Unfortunately, the detector uses a headset output, so it's very difficult to give the audio I'm getting through the headset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the audio out of this and plug it directly in the camera, and then we're going to test a variety of objects here to give you an idea of the different types of interference potential. Another cool feature of this piece of equipment is the ability to connect the detector output to a piece of equipment such as a spectrum analyzer or something like that. And you can see here, we'll go ahead and run our device over here, and you can see the broadband noise on the spectrum analyzer. And then as we go away from it, well, I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed getting this piece of equipment working again. You know, I never thought that I'd be the first kid on my block with an RF-204U, yet here I am. I hope this helps. This is Brett from SurvivalComms. Till next time.